CGIS briefs take place every 2 weeks. We're going to pick a topic and divvy up the research amongst the three of us, and then we present it out to you like we're doing today. Brief topics will range. So for example, like I said, we'll be talking about exploring CGIS programs, but other briefs can range from scams and fraud abroad to drinking and nightlife culture, food culture, and we actually have so many more ideas coming your way. Keep in mind that we're not experts in these particular fields or these areas of interest. Some briefs may actually have some guests who actually do specialize in certain things. So if some of you got to catch the COVID-19 edition, we actually had our health and safety team. So Callie is part of the health and safety team, but we actually had also the senior international health and safety advisor, Rachel Reuter, here to discuss a little bit about COVID-19. So we're hoping for these briefs to be casual conversations, and in many cases we'll be drawing from our own experiences abroad, but it's also really going to depend on what you're hoping to get out of it. So feel free to use the chat box. For example, today I am your moderator, so I will be monitoring the chat box. So if any of you have any questions or concerns, feel free to type it into the chat box at any point during this presentation, and I will speak on your behalf. If Callie and Ashton are in the midst of a conversation, I will interrupt them just so that we can make sure that we're getting your questions answered. So with all of that, let's get started. So like I mentioned, we're going to be exploring CGIS programs and providing some really important tips and tricks that you'll need to know when it comes time to navigating your research or the application process and much more. Throughout the presentation too, you'll also notice that we have some tips that were provided from our CGIS advisors. At this point, each of them have really, seen a lot, spoken to a lot of students, so they really know what's easy in terms of, what you need to know. So just, be on the lookout for that. Callie and Ashton will kind of read them out loud as we go along. All right, so next slide, please. I just kind of want to go over a few CGIS facts. If some of you don't know anything about CGIS, CGIS is the largest study abroad office here at the University of Michigan. We have over 100 programs in 40 plus countries, and that is constantly growing. Obviously, COVID-19 right now, we've kind of put a pause on adding onto our portfolio. But if, one day when COVID-19 hopefully, calms down a little bit, we're going to obviously expand more and more. Sometimes some of you might, like me when I was your age, I often thought that studying abroad meant that I needed to take programs in a local language, and actually most of our programs offer courses taught in English. So we have about 30 plus countries with programs that are taught in English, and we have a lot of unique programs that are faculty-led programs. So we'll be able to expand a little bit more on that later. But yeah, keep that in mind. Those are just a few fun things about CGIS. All right, so why does it matter? Why does studying abroad matter? Well, so the first thing I think is students have reported that their personal academic and professional goals have been enhanced by their international experience. So a lot of times students, discover new interests and hobbies. What we hear a lot of is students going in and not really having a major or minor, and then coming out and having a better understanding of a field that they would like to explore more when they get back to campus. Another important thing to highlight is grad schools and employers are really looking for an international experience. Future employers and graduate school admission boards look very highly for these study abroad experiences. Students that study abroad displays a sense of diversity and shows that you're not really afraid to seek out new challenges, new adventures, or even putting yourselves in difficult situations. I know maybe studying abroad may not sound like a difficult situation, but it certainly is a completely different situation than what you are when you're here in the United States. Grad schools regularly look for candidates who will bring a unique aspect to their university, and cultural competence is definitely one of those unique aspects. So having cultural competence gives you like this opportunity to understand, communicate with, and effectively interact with people from all over the globe. Cultural competence encompasses being aware of one's one world view, developing positive attitudes towards cultural differences, gaining knowledge of different cultural practices and worldviews. Just having awareness in general is just such a powerful tool, and international, seeking an international experience is definitely going to give you that insight into various cultures around the world. And then lastly, honing in on your language skills. I know I told you earlier that I was, very nervous about going abroad when I was in college. And one of the things was language being a potential barrier. So this is a really good opportunity for students who are hoping to expand on their language competency. I just went to Spain in February, and I was just surprised at how much of my Spanish came back to me, and how helpful it was, though, to be amongst locals who are utilizing the language a lot. It definitely will help that you are going to have to use it all of the time, versus here when you're only in a class for about 50 minutes to an hour and a half. It does not replace the actual full time, that you'll have when you get to that country. Next slide. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the things I think is best when you're thinking about what kind of program you want to go on. So the three main aspects, or maybe it's 4 or 2, whatever it is, main aspects of a program that you're interested in. So what is most important to you and your must-haves. So some common must-haves are location, program type, coursework requirements, accommodation, your identity, things related to your identity, and duration of the program. And we are going to go into a lot of these into more depth in a few more slides. But one thing we want to kind of have you think about is, okay, like what are my top ones doing, like the location, credit storage degree, and a specific kind of accommodation. That's what's going to craft me my perfect program. So for example, when I studied abroad as a student, I had a couple of key things that I needed. So I wanted to be in Eastern Europe. I didn't have a lot of coursework that I was able to get at my college in Eastern Europe, but I was really interested in that as my focus. I actually eventually did my honors thesis on 2 Eastern European countries. And so I wanted to go to an Eastern European country. I knew that I wanted it to be a longer term program. I wanted to spend a full semester there. And also I really knew that cost mattered to me too. So that I needed to find something that was going to be cost effective for me and not break the bank to go to. So it ended up that the Czech Republic, in Prague in particular, was really well suited for me. I was able to get that location interest embedded with that, like that interest in Eastern European coursework, while also making sure that it wasn't going to break the bank while still being a semester-long program. So what we're going to have you do for really quickly is have each of you guys think about what are your top must-haves and drop them in the chat for us. And you can just share it out with everyone in the chat. Yeah.
We've got financial,
like finances, location, program type. Location's really important. Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
Lots of language. Yes. Language, I mean, yeah, like Steven mentioned, I see so many students that say like my language competency skills were like much, much better after I came back. Financially viable, location, language. Yeah. Awesome.
I'm not seeing any identity, and I just feel like some of y'all should take some time to think about your identity. And I know when I was your age, I wasn't thinking about it, but please take it from me. Just ponder a little bit on it.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. And that actually segues well into location, because we mentioned a little bit of that there. So first of all, a lot of you guys mentioned location. I know location was the top of my mind when I studied abroad. And there are a couple of different factors to be considering when you are thinking about location. So cost of living. So for example, studying in, the UK in London versus studying in the Czech Republic in Prague was a no-brainer to me. I was like, oh, really expensive over there. I don't want to pay that. I can get a lot more for my buck in the Czech Republic. So cost of living can be one. Language. Do you want to be studying another language, or do you want to just be focusing on, speaking in English and focusing on other elements of cultural immersion? The vibe, so urban versus small city, or maybe like transportation styles. So for example, there's some Nordic countries that are very heavily focused on, like bike riding and things like that. I don't know if I would be so jazzed to be like bike riding everywhere. I loved the trams a lot and just walking around when I studied, so I'd be more towards that kind of thing. And your identity. So I think it's like kind of like vague when we're like, okay, like factoring your identity, what does that actually mean? And so this, I think it helps to localize it in location and thinking about locations that are gonna be LGBTQ friendly or disability friendly for you. Or, if you're a heritage seeking student, maybe it's really important for you to go to, China because you're Chinese American and you've never actually been to China before. Or maybe you're really interested in connecting with a particular community in that area. So I know I was reading a bunch of blogs from past students this year who were Latinx and going to London on one of our programs. And they talked about like really being able to connect with local Latinx communities, and it was really important and a really valuable aspect of their time there. Health and safety, of course, is really important as well, considering, is this going to be a good place for you if you have any medical concerns, or is it going to be a good safety-wise location? I think that's really at the top of everyone's brain right now with COVID, of like, is this going to be a safe location for me? Is it going to, be able to fit my needs and be able to, protect me if I get COVID, or, if I just get generally, sick in some way. And also intercountry travel. Maybe you really want to go to multiple countries while you're studying abroad. Well, maybe a country like Germany would be better suited for you than Australia, where you have to fly every time you want to leave the country. And I really like Sadie's recommendation on location. Visualize your ideal day-to-day life. What do you want your life to look like? And explore countries that might match your ideal, or countries that might match your ideals or challenge you. I think that's really great too, not going beyond just like the basics of like academics, is it certified credit, blah, blah, blah. What does that actually look like to live there? I think that's really great. So, Ashton.
Yeah, so in today's society, we have so many choices, right? And it can be really overwhelming. Like Stephen mentioned earlier, CGIS has over 130 programs, but that is just limited to what we offer. There are thousands of study abroad opportunities all over the world, right? So really going through and thinking about yourself and what's best for you is going to make finding your program a lot easier. But it will take some time and patience. And here in a few minutes, we'll go through Encompass, where all of our programs are housed, but we're just laying the base. So some of you mentioned that program type was really important to you. So I made a little chart. It's very basic, but you can kind of see, what are the main points you should be looking at when you're researching a program. So there's a lot of different models to consider. One really important one is, does this program charge me U of M tuition, yes or no? If you're an out-of-state student, it may not be, best for your budget to be paying U of M tuition. You could be saving a lot of money. And I'll show you where to find that on Encompass. So that's a really important thing to look at. Another is the accommodation. Do you want a homestay? That's really great for language acquisition, so look into that. And then the cohort type. We have programs where all 25 students are U of M students. And some people, want to take a break from that. They want to study with other students from the US or around the globe. So that's another important aspect. And lastly, what is the topic? We have some programs that are very environmental focused. So maybe that's what you're looking for. And we have some that are very generic. Maybe you're trying to get distribution credit. So that's something you can look into. And we'll talk a little bit about credits in a minute. And then another thing about exchanges, I just wanted to point out, exchange programs require a high level of independence, and you often have to be a junior or senior. So just think about that. What do you need? Do you need a lot of support, or are you okay with going abroad and navigating your way through a lot of these new experiences by yourself? And that Sarah says, look at the CGIS budget sheets to determine what is the best financial fit for you. And we are always here to help you figure all this out, so you're not alone. You can go to the next slide, Callie. So in terms of duration, it's really important to figure out what your goals are. We have students coming to us from all different backgrounds. So really think through, what do I want to get out of this? Do I want to, perfect my Italian language skills? Well, we have a full semester in Italian. So that might be the best program for you. Is it your first time traveling outside of the US? Or maybe you're traveling without your family for the first time. So that could be an indicator that a shorter term program is best for you. So really figure out what your goals are for your program. And then you want to think about your return on investment. If you're going to be paying a lot of money, you're putting your time into it, you're going to be away from home, you want to get the most out of the program. And I promise you, the longer you go abroad, the more you're going to get out of it. So don't be afraid to go abroad for an entire semester or academic year, especially if you're a first year student or a sophomore. You have a lot of time to plan that. And we have students coming to us with all kinds of different schedules, whether it's academic or extracurricular. We have athletes who could only go abroad in the spring or summer term, so that's another thing to consider. And lastly, cultural adjustment takes time, and that doesn't necessarily happen in 5 to 6 weeks in the summer. It can take months and even years in some cases. So if you're really wanting to get to know, let's say the Moroccan culture, I would definitely recommend a longer term program. You can go to the next slide, Callie. Okay, so right before we jump to mCompass and kind of show you how to navigate searching for a program, we'll talk about coursework requirements. So I think a lot of us advisors really encourage students to start planning early, because what Yanati says, sometimes course approvals decide what programs you can go on. So the further you go through your academic career, the less options you may have. So distribution credits like humanities and social sciences are pretty easy to find abroad. So you'll have a lot of programs, locations, program types to choose from. And the further you get through your major, or you're like, oh, I have to get this PIE credit, or I have to get this math credit, your program options are going to get smaller. So definitely start planning ahead and start talking to your academic advisor. And one really great aspect of going on a CGIS program is that you get LSA and residence credit. So your grades show up and it goes directly to your GPA.
Ashton, we had a question come in.
Okay.
Can you study abroad more than once?
Yes. We have some students, not very many, that study abroad 3 or 4 times, but I would say it's pretty common for a lot of students to go abroad for the spring or summer on a short-term program after their first year, and then they go abroad again for an entire semester, maybe their junior year. And even one of our peer advisors, she graduated in May, but she went abroad 3 times through CGIS. So yes, we encourage all to study abroad as many times as you can.
And then we did have another question that it says, some programs state that they require college level courses. Can AP credits apply to these prerequisites?
I would definitely reach out to the advisor for that program because sometimes these are the requirements of our partners abroad and not necessarily a CGIS requirement. So they may be very particular that they want that experience to be at the college level, not at the high school level.
Awesome. Thanks.
Alrighty, so next we are going to shift to examples, which I think is the easiest way to really kind of like look at this and dive into this in particular. So I am going to stop sharing, and so Ashton can take over the sharing, but I'm going to read you the first question, first example. So first off, Andrew is a Vietnamese American PITE student, a program in the environment student, and, oops, my thing disappeared. There it is, who wants to experience traveling to Vietnam without family. He's looking for a spring-summer program so study abroad won't interfere with his cross-country season. So we're looking at a couple of different things. So definitely pretty interested in Vietnam, to be able to visit Vietnam by himself. A PITE student, so probably is looking for some PITE credits potentially, and definitely needs a spring-summer program so that it's not going to conflict with athletics. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashton to actually guide us through that.
Okay, so I've gone to the mCompass website, and that is where all of the international opportunities are housed at U of M. Hey, Callie, do you mind closing out of your chat? We can hear it beep, sorry. So it's not just CGIS programs, it can be engineering programs, Ross programs, so it can be overwhelming. So we're just gonna walk you through given the scenario that Callie gave. So this is the home page, and what you're gonna do is click on international. And then you're gonna click on study. And I'm going to take you to advanced program search because that's going to really be able to get you down to what we're looking for. So for program type, you definitely want to type in CGIS so you know only CGIS programs will be pulled up. And then in the scenario Callie gave, I think she said that Andrew was interested in Vietnam because he's heritage seeking. However, that is really narrow, so it's always good to start a little bit wider. I'm going to start in Asia. And then Andrew also, I think, wanted a spring summer. And he said he was interested in the environment, but there's no way to really pick a major on this search function. So I'm going to stick with this for now. And then I'm also going to have it sort by the country. Since he's interested in Vietnam, I want to see that really quickly. So we're going to hit search. I'm going to scroll down to Vietnam. And I see this development study. So let's go to that page and see what the academics are. So you have all these tabs. Andrew's looking for PITE courses or environment, and he's interested in the summer. So I'm going to go to the link for the summer classes. And I know Ben's advice, he's another CGIS advisor, is to click on all the partner links because their websites are going to have all the information you need. So I'm just going to click on academics. Like I said, researching programs may require a lot of patience because you're going to be looking at a lot of different websites. So I definitely recommend planning early. And then I'm going to go to the core electives to see if there's anything that might be related to the environment. So I'm going to click on this class, and a lot of our partners have the course descriptions or the whole syllabus online, which you can discuss with your academic advisor, and they'll be able to tell you, oh yeah, that'll fulfill a 300 level elective in your major, or that will fulfill humanities, which is really great. So I'm seeing here under the disciplines listed that environmental studies is there. So maybe this could be a good option for Andrew. So I think Callie is going to read us another scenario. So I'm going to go
really quickly. We got one question in.
Yep.
It says, can you get the general 12 to 18 credits while studying abroad for a semester? I worried that going during school would inhibit graduation.
Yeah. So students study abroad for academic year or semester all the time, and they graduate within 4 years, and those classes are counting towards their major, whether it's distribution credit or directly towards their major. just start talking to your academic advisor to plan your experience, and everything will like fit together in that like perfect puzzle.
Yeah, and it's really important to remember that if you are an LSA student going to on a CGIS program, it's all in resident. So it looks exactly, you know, like transfers just the same as, you know, like as if you were taking classes here for a semester. So for the next example, so we have Alex. So Alex is non-binary and feels most comfortable in a European country. They want to live in a city and interact with the local LGBTQ community. So big things, must-haves for Alex is a European country, finding a city to live in, so less focus on like those smaller locations, and looking for some place that is going to be LGBTQ friendly. So I would say, you know, like when I'm chatting with students and they ask me, okay, like I'm thinking about my like safety and I want to be in a place that's like safe for LGBTQ individuals, I would often recommend, if they were particularly interested in Europe, to avoid countries like Poland or Russia, which have recently had, you know, anti-LGBTQ laws, and also just general social attitudes that are more negative towards LGBTQ individuals, and you're much more likely to see kind of like underground communities of LGBTQ folks in those countries. Whereas maybe if you go to like London or Berlin, you're going to be seeing much more open communities, a much more vibrant scene for gay individuals. Yeah.
So I typed in CGIS again. I chose Europe, but I know Callie mentioned a couple of countries. One was Germany, so I can click on that. Then she mentioned London, so I'm going to click on the United Kingdom. But if you don't have like that specific information, you can just leave it at Europe and see what happens. And then she also said that the student wanted to, you know, really connect with the local community. So I would recommend going abroad for a whole semester, not just a short-term program. So I'm going to click fall and winter. I'm going to organize it by city, since the student, that's really what they're trying to hone in on. Like for example, Brighton is a smaller city, but Berlin is a big city. So again, opening up this Encompass brochure. And I mentioned earlier that the finance part is really important. So you'll want to click on that tab. And then we have these budget sheets that are available for all of our programs. And the first line on every single CGIS budget sheet is U of M tuition, yes or no. So that's right here. Then you can see, you know, what's the program fee and the other costs associated with that program.
Awesome. Well, we are running a little bit close to time, so I am just going to, I think we're going to skip the last example, if that makes sense, Ashton?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, great. So I will flip back over, or do you want to present? Either way.
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Okay, it's my dog. Sorry, guys.
Also, I did just want to share out a link. If you all don't mind just signing in, we just kind of wanted to get a quick attendance of for today's event. But right now, we're going to open the floor up to any other questions. Feel free to add them in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, you're also, that's okay too. But we'll move on to the next slide and we'll wait for your questions.
So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the other CGIS advisors. We can definitely walk you through this. This is really just to help you get started and thinking about the program that's the best fit for you. And next time on the CGIS Brief, we will be talking about funding study abroad through scholarship. So Sarah Pauling, she's another CGIS advisor, will be joining us. And the date is Thursday, October 22nd at 3 p.m., so same time. And we'll record that session if you need to come back to it. So that is all we have for you today. If anything else comes up, please feel free to reach out to us. So I'm just going to go to Encompass really quickly. So when you click from our website, it'll bring you to the program pages like we were looking at. But I'll also show you something else. If you're really interested in a certain location, is you can do map search. And this is good for maybe like South America or Africa, because if you go to Europe, it's going to be, list a lot of programs. But you can go by country, so maybe it won't be so bad. So for France, you can just scroll through and see, okay, I see like 5 CGIS programs in France. This looks interesting. Click on that, and that can help you as well with location.
I would also note that, like, even though there are not necessarily presentations specifically focused on region, there are presentations that we will do in combination with certain units. So there's certain units that we are really partnered with. I think like CogSci is one that our advisor, like Sarah Pauling, talks with a lot, and we do cross advising with them and things like that. So if there are certain majors, there may be opportunities for you to hear from one of our advisors talking about what kind of opportunities are available if you're looking for something in that realm.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you all.